Did you see the story about China developing the world's first pregnancy humanoid, effectively a robot womb? Should we be concerned about what that means for the future of humanity? Let's unpack. Across China, Asia, and even here in the West, we're facing a population collapse. Fertility rates have fallen so low that entire nations are now shrinking. For perspective, a society's replacement level is 2.1 children per woman. What's China's fertility rate? It's about 1.1. Their population has effectively collapsed. So the timing of them releasing this news of their artificial womb humanoid is no coincidence. Here in the US, we're at 1.6, and many European countries are even lower. Instead of asking why women can't naturally conceive and carry healthy babies to term, the response has been to double down on artificial solutions like lab-grown embryos, artificial wombs, you name it. And there is virtually no serious ethical debate happening. It's as if we've just accepted that babies will be manufactured by machines instead of conceived by women. This should worry all of us. This, of course, follows years of communist rule in China, where they effectively erased much of what it meant to be feminine, to be maternal. And now in the West, we are seeing the word mother being quietly erased from our everyday language, replaced with words like childbearing individual. When you connect the dots, it looks less like science helping women and more like science trying to redefine what it means to be a woman. Meanwhile, the FDA is reviewing an artificial womb technology for premature babies. That might sound compassionate, but look at history. IVF was a breakthrough for women with cancer who couldn't conceive, but within a single decade, it was commercialized, and today it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's becoming a norm. In fact, some even argue it's irresponsible not to use embryo editing in IVF. That's how fast these things move from medical emergency to a mass-marketed product. So here's where we stand. Fertility rates are in a free fall. Natural motherhood is under attack. The artificial solutions are racing ahead with almost no ethical or spiritual guardrails. The real question we should be asking before others ask and answer it for us is this: just because man likes to play God, does that make him God? And similarly, where are all the freedom fighters for protecting women's rights to healthy, natural reproductivity?
Who wrote the agreement on agriculture that's destroyed all the self-reliance and food sovereignty of people? You know, everyone's talking about the Ukraine war and Russia, but the reason African countries are hungry is because their ability to produce their food was destroyed by the right to dump by Cargill. Cargill wrote the agreement on agriculture, and then the junk food industry, the Pepsis and Cokes and Nestle's, wrote the sanitary and phytosanitary agreement and created the Codex Alimentarius to shut down healthy food and pushed the food that gave us illnesses, 75% chronic diseases. This is not a conspiracy. There is evidence that the corporations wrote the rules, then it created the billionaires. Now the billionaires rule the world. And I call them the 1%, not because they're 1%, they're just a handful. And when you ask me, you know, what's the optimism? For me, the optimism is a pathetic group of ignorant, selfish men are not more powerful than all the people who've occupied the palace of the president in Sri Lanka, the farmers who've occupied the streets of Netherlands. People have power. We've been made to think we are inert. We've been made to think nature is inert. And all it is a colonization of our mind. The minute we become free and say, we are part of nature, we are creative, and we are powerful. Powerful in a different way. Of non-violent resistance, of absolutely refusing to be colonized.
China just announced the world's first pregnancy robot expected by 2026. Yeah, the future officially makes no sense. Meet the latest invention from Kaiwa Technology, a humanoid robot with an artificial womb. Think sci-fi, but with lab coats and serious faces. Inside its belly, an artificial womb filled with amniotic fluid, hooked up to tubes that deliver nutrients and oxygen, like a high-tech baby bag. And the cost? About 100,000 yuan. That's 14,000 US dollars. Cheaper than surrogacy. Supporters say this could help infertile couples. Critics? They're freaking out about ethics, motherhood, and whether babies will start calling Alexa mom.
Anything at this point to corrupt God's creation. China firm plans world's first pregnancy humanoid robot using artificial womb. Here's where it gets evil. The innovation uses artificial amniotic fluid and nutrient delivery via hose, replicating natural gestation. In other words, this little baby will no longer be fully human. And before people come for me and say, Ashley, you're reaching, think about it. Listen to me. We are living in the last seconds of the last days. God said specifically that the last days would be exactly like it was in the days of Noah. In the days of Noah, Satan was trying to corrupt God's creation. He was trying to corrupt man's DNA. He was intentionally trying to mutate the DNA and create hybrids, non-humans, because he hates man, because we are made in the image of God. And just like it was in the days of Noah, we are seeing a push for transhumanism. There is a reason for things like this. You have no idea what's in that amniotic fluid. You have no idea what's in that nutrient delivery. This baby is being raised artificially. What do you think that's going to mean? The bold vision of a humanoid surrogate pregnancy robot was presented at the 2025 World Robot Conference in Beijing. It is not merely an incubator, but a life-size humanoid equipped with an artificial womb in its abdomen, capable of replicating the entire process from conception to delivery. Slated for debut by 2026 and expected to sell for around $14,000, the robot aims to offer a pregnancy alternative for those who wish to avoid the burdens of human gestation. Now, this is what's interesting. I found this is from last year. Claims that BrainChip is developing a surrogate robot, they're unfounded. He is not developing robots to carry human pregnancies. Claims about such technology are false and have been debunked. You can always count on those fact checkers. The idea originated from misleading social media posts, and there is no credible evidence supporting the existence of such a project. This is why it's so incredibly hard to know the truth these days, because when you actually go to look things up, this is what you're going to get. Everyone is coming at China for this without realizing that everyone is working together behind the scenes. Satan hates us because we are made in the image of God. The goal of Satan is to rule this world forever with his own creation, and we are watching it happen in real time. Whoever opts for this, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that your child is no longer going to be fully human.
Hi, Steve here. Morgellons, chimeras, chemtrail death spraying are some of the scientific methods that mankind is experimenting with. I was going to say advances, but much of this science doesn't advance humankind all that much, unless you think designer babies is an advancement. Sure, they can claim to be advancing in the health field, but for all the hype of hopeful science advances, there are many other issues that may alarm us. This generation is possibly the best oxymoron of any generation. Most people are oblivious to chemtrails and constant spraying of nanofibers causing Morgellons disease.
What happens when the medical community can't figure out what's wrong with you? Where do you turn? What's the cause? And what can you do? This is also what people suffering from Morgellons have to endure, or so they say. Morgellons disease reportedly also causes memory loss, joint pain, and fatigue, as well as strange fibrous growths that seem to burst out of the skin in red, white, and blue.
In a time when we have unlimited resources of knowledge available, we have possibly the most uninformed and uneducated people in the world, and especially in America. People are spending their time protesting and rioting in the streets, and right underneath their noses are some of the most insidious scientific catastrophes being waged against them that we've ever seen in history. Scientists are making incredible strides in all facets of science and technology, but much of it will never be utilized to actually help human beings. It will be used to help the elite, the globalists, those with unlimited sources of money, not the average and poor person on this earth. The Bible is the roadmap to see the future and the past, but most people have no clue of what's in the Bible. They don't care because they think only religious people read the Bible. The Apostle Paul and all the other apostles, along with the Lord Jesus Christ himself, talked a lot about the last days and what would be going on in this world before Jesus comes back. Even the prophet Daniel was told by the angel, "In the last days men will run here and there, and knowledge will increase." The Apostle Paul wrote this letter to Timothy. It was his second letter, and he said, "Know this, Timothy, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, boasters, blasphemers, unthankful, unholy, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, despisers of good people, and traitors. I believe this is where we're at right now, which proves we are in the last of the last days. The globalists and the elite of this planet are implementing on a global scale the destruction of most of mankind. They use every base and vile thing in man to try and cause chaos, strife, war, and destruction. Their goal is depopulation. So no matter what kind of great science breakthroughs we have, these won't be available and used for all of mankind, contrary to what they try and tell you. Now you can see they've covered us up here today. There's a jet. There he is. There's a jet spraying more right now. You can see the trail. I'll follow that chemtrail down. There's another one. It's thick, and they're everywhere today. They are everywhere. And there he is. There he is, laying more down. This is a reality, and a lot of people are not convinced, even though they can see them being sprayed in the sky, because of people hired to try and confuse or completely debunk the facts that it's being done. So that keeps people in their little bubble and their little fiction of safety, and they have no interest in pursuing the truth. Most people are just too busy with their lives and their own personal agendas. If these chemtrails were really contrails, as so many of the paid debunkers online try to convince you of, then why have all these elements been found, not only in the earth and water samples tested, but also in human beings?
Sadly, for most sufferers, the medical community regards Morgellons as nothing more than delusional parasitosis. In other words, these people are crazy. But some health professionals aren't so sure this is a psychiatric condition, and are convinced that further research will reveal evidence to prove so. Researchers who have looked closely at the skin of Morgellon sufferers have admitted the discovery of thousands of tiny hairs which are not of human origin, nor are they from any known animal, plant, or man-made fiber. Further tests on patients from the California Bay Area found that these fibers were actually tiny tubes of protein, but where they came from remains a mystery. A fiber analysis conducted by the Tulsa Police Department's forensic lab in Oklahoma found that Morgellons particles didn't match anything in their database of 800 fibers, or 85,000 organic compounds. And when they heated the fibers to 600 degrees, they didn't even burn.
Why are these diseases and symptoms being reported worldwide? Mostly only NATO countries.
There are currently over 2,000 people in the U.S. who claim to have Morgellons disease and thousands more worldwide. Morgellons came into the public's consciousness when in 2006, the CDC concluded that Morgellons was entirely psychiatric. So what gives? Could people really be imagining this? And if so, what is causing thousands of people around the world to suffer the same hallucinations? Something toxic in our modern environment is the cause. When fiberglass use first became widespread, people reported similar itching in the presence of strange fibers in the skin, and only through microscopic analysis was fiberglass discovered to be the source. We just don't know. But the most mysterious claim comes from a doctor in New Mexico. Dr. George Schwartz of Santa Fe claims that a former CIA agent told him this was a man-made disease.
Special nozzles attached to jets and government unmarked airplanes have been photographed and seen for at least the last 15 years. Usually they're painted all white. Scientists are also in love with gene technology. They're using something called CRISPR. CRISPR is a genome editing system, almost like we use a word processor to edit our text. Scientists do that with their genome engineering. They literally can manipulate DNA genes and do incredible things. The problem is, with this knowledge, they won't stop with doing just good things, but they're already doing evil things as well, most of which the public has no clue of. Scientists are creating cow-human hybrids, pig-human hybrids, and even mouse-human hybrids. This is happening every single day in labs all over the Western world, but most people have never even heard about it. Would you drink milk from a cow-human hybrid that produces milk that's almost identical to human breast milk? And how would you interact with a mouse that has a brain that's almost entirely human? The errors in gene technology can cause some devastating and hideous consequences. They talk about the ethics of gene technology, but without any fear of God, there are no ethics. There are no limits to what they'll do. Chinese scientists were some of the first to use CRISPR. Just imagine what kind of mutants have been engineered in China by now. In China, ethics and regulations on science are just about non-existent. Science and technology is moving at an exponential, accelerated speed. Just like it says in the Bible by the prophet Daniel. In the last days and the end times, men would run here and there, and knowledge will increase. The problem with playing God in a scientific community is they're not God, and they can't fix their mistakes. And you can be certain they'll make many. I want to talk to you just a minute about My Patriot Supply. If you haven't prepared by getting emergency survival food, this is not a fear-mongering spot that I want to give you. What I want to do is I want to warn you. I want to let you know that there is a way to prepare. It doesn't do me any good to tell you about all the things that are happening and all the way they're trying to destroy our food supply. I wish it wasn't true. I wish a lot of things weren't true, but they are. And the reality is that if you don't have any backup food, emergency food, once the stores close or once all the food is gone because of any kind of internal disruption, and that could be very many things. We learned what happened in 2020. Preparewiththinkaboutit.com. They've got great products. They've got survival food, emergency survival food that lasts up to 25 years. They've got a new generator with EMP protection built into it. I wish I'd known about that because I would have got one then. So please visit the website at preparewiththinkaboutit.com. Take advantage of some of these great deals right now. Go through the website. You'll find all kinds of deals on it for all kinds of things, whether it's survival gear, whether it's emergency food, whether it's generators, no matter what it is. And they all are great products.